Hey, thanks for reaching out. Um, I'm laughing because I'm just like totally unqualified to answer this, but I am a fan of plant biology. I'm a social sciences librarian, and I'm going to look for somebody else that might be able to expand on the options. But I did a little digging around, and I think I see some of the issues of what you were looking for and why they were hard to find. So we're going to study something, and then we're going to turn it inside out and see how that goes from there. So one of the big deals, especially from an agricultural point of view, is like heat tolerance or drought tolerance, or that it won't die from radiation or whatever. So if you go to the library catalog and you just type in T-crit or T-crit, I think I found it's more prevalent in the other one. So what it's going to do, out of the 70 million things in the library catalog, articles, books, book chapters, it's going to look for that ultra-specific measurement, which apparently is a range of temperature that something photosynthesis does well in. Um, um, and there's not a lot, and it's all like highly technical, like thermal acclimation, thermal limits, photosystem, plasticity. It's just like a whole bunch of stuff. And histoire de sociology is like utterly irrelevant. So I was just like, what is going on with that? And so I had to do a little bit of searching, and I have to admit, I was just like, well, what the heck is T-crit? I asked Gemini, and this was really handy because I found out that this is something that's been studied for like millennia. Why do my plants die when there's not enough water? Why do my plants die on hot days? And tragically me, why do my tomatoes last year yield so little? And I never thought about T-crit, but I talked about lots of sun and heat and things like that. So photosynthetic or photosynthesis and heat tolerance, if we go back to the library catalog and search for those things, then we're in a much better shape for helping you understand where we're coming from. And I'll show you some more in-depth ideas. I mean, you could just search for T-crit, but I would say heat tolerance is one set of keywords, and you put them in quotes so heat and tolerance stick together. And if you do an or, I thought there was like thermal tolerance in there too. And you can see some of the other places that I've been. I went to the US National Science Foundation, which speaks to more of my level of understanding biology. Again, I'm going to help find somebody. But here we get plant responses to higher temperatures change on how hot it gets. So this is to my, like the general public reading level. So I would say, take a look at these, and here we get the stomata. I've never heard of the word stomatal. I'm going to use that in a sentence. By the way, stomata I thought was really cool. I learned that in biology, and I loved the idea of a plant breathing until, like in 2022, somebody put one under a microscope, and it looked like a mouth opening and closing. Have you seen that? It's horrifying. But here we go. There's different mechanisms, and stomata is part of it. So what you could do is go and look up stomata or stomatal, and then you've got a whole bunch of things to pick from. So some of these are going to be practical, so this might be agricultural. Some of them might be really highly technical. But what you can do, I would recommend going into the books or the book chapters, these two things, and see if you can find what people are talking about, and see if they talk about that temperature range. So the CR or the TCRIT, that might not be as important right now as to understanding what they're measuring and what are on the outliers of being too cold or too hot and what's going on. So here we get like stomata, chlorophyll, issues with the membrane. I remember turgor pressure was one of them, like how if the plant's able to stand on its own. So this might be a good way to go. But you go into Gemini and say, what are plant strategies for heat tolerance. And maybe they'll give you some of those ideas. So you might have to go back and forth with stuff that you know. Transpirational cooling, stomata. I'm so proud that I remembered one thing from biology. So go back and forth and back and forth. But look for these articles from credible sources. So there's like the Royal Society of Biology. If you do searches like this out on the open web, you should be able to tell if it's something that's worthwhile. The library is going to be heavy towards the technical, and let me show you how that is going to make a difference. So in the heavy technical part, let's go back to our library homepage, go to Advanced Catalog, and on this one, I'm going to try T-crit. So T-crit, that's the measurement of the range, right? Another measurement of photosynthesis I discovered in my research is called DCPIP. So that measures like photosynthesis output. Imagine it's like measures the sugar or something like that. If we look at those, and we look at for those in the title, this is where you can look up those really technical definitions. And if it's too far into the weeds, pardon the pun. Yeah, this isn't exactly what we're looking for. Then you can add like plants or stomata or chlorophyll or respiration. Is it turgor pressure? I can't remember. The limits of my knowledge have been met. Or photosynthesis. So this T-crit or DCPIP, if it's not giving us what we're looking for, we can add the context. But the most important thing will be that it's in those terms are in the title. And there's only 12 that have that. But after you do that background searching, you can then confidently go into this and just look at the abstract of it and see. You don't have to read the whole article. You can get like the high-level view of what's going on. So there's like an herbicide. That's how Roundup works. Is it makes the stomata close, and so the plant can't respirate, and so they warm up. It takes their T-crit down to like nothing, and then they're just like can't breathe. If you want to see the full text, you can. Oh, that sounds dodgy. Whatever link that was. Well, here we are. If you run stuck trying to get a hold of full text, let me know and I'll help you track it down. But I think this is how I would start out and see where the studies are coming from. And if there's only this few, also there's only 12, I would sort by the number of like when it was published, so you can see what's going on that's brand new. Okay, this is my starting place. I'm going to try and get a hold of another biology librarian, but this is where I would start. And just the more you read, the more you take down notes, the more you'll start to build those building blocks of like what matters and what exists in the scope of that thing that you're looking for. Thanks for including me.